So a very warm welcome to everyone into this Friday session of Sangha Live, and I hope it's meeting you well, finding you well as we arrive together, settle in together, having a breath, noticing what we can notice. So, each day it feels that change has come like a reliable messenger of my experience, changing locations. And now my internal body temperature has changed, and I've got a fever. And as anyone who is trying to make sense while having a fever will know, it's can be hit and miss. So I've got some notes, some of which I wrote while feverish, but some of them were kind of clearly around a clear idea and a clear mind at the time of composition. So we'll see if I can make sense of myself and make sense of what I want to share today. So we'll start off as before, a little bit of kind of opening reflection, dive that into a meditation, and then have time for any kind of questions and reflections that arise from that. I really enjoy that part of the session. So if there's anything at all you want to bring in, really feel invited to do that. So first, if you haven't already, do say hello in the chat. Yeah, thank you for those who are wishing me well. I'm sure this is temporary, a changing condition, which is exactly what we've been exploring this week. But yeah, really wish each other well as well, and say hello and anything else, your location if you want, anything into the chat together. Do also let me know. I'm kind of covering also the tech side of things. So if screens freeze, volume's too low, teacher's not making sense, anything like that, do pop up, send a message, and we'll do what we can with this. So this week, as Sangha Live has kind of taken this theme of change, we've been leaning into, and at times I think actually disappearing and then reappearing within this sense of change. Yeah, so there's actually something quite interesting about how we appear in a world that's changing. This sense of self seems to have some kind of continuity, but it's very much dependent on how we're looking, how we're relating, how we're sensing our experience. So, wow, that's interesting. So who I am depends on what I pay attention to. So we began with this phrase and we've stepped through it. Notice how all conditioned things change. We've taken one word from there each day. We're going to lean into change today because we've noticed what we can notice, and seeing it change in attention. We've been feeling into how certain ways of being, relating, sensing induce a sense of change. And when we release that contraction, release that demand, the things of the world, the things of experience change, move, shift. Why? Because all things, all appearances are conditioned to appear that way. And when those conditions change, and we can contribute some of those conditions, how things appear changes. And the phenomena that need those conditions to appear come and go. And really, we can say that things, the appearance of things, need certain conditions to appear at all. This whole path can actually be the withdrawing of reactivity patterns through that contraction, through that demand, through the other ways of unskillful application of heart and mind, changes how the perceptions are perceived, right? And that changes everything that we can know, everything we can know out there, everything we can know, so to say, in here. And really, what's the distinction, right? All these perceptions, appearances in knowing consciousness. what I'm interested in is, can we use these teachings also to support a sense of contributing to the state of the world, the inner world that we perceive and the outer world, so to say, that we act in, and those two are certainly not discrete. You know, they're not separate, right? So some of these explorations can actually leave us feeling a bit groundless, and that can be good and bad, right? We can feel kind of freed up, but we can also feel a bit uncertain of what we can do, how we can do it, what we maybe should do in this world. And this relates to the hindrance of doubt, right? We're given too many possibilities. You know, open up a wardrobe and say, what would you like to wear? Too many possibilities, and we just get hindered by that. I don't know, anything. That lack of confidence in oneself and in reality's changeability can kind of freeze us. So it can free us and it can freeze us. Interesting that those words sound so alike, right? Then the lens of change, we can bring that in. It's like, but this is going to change. Who we appear to be, what we feel we can do, is mirrored by the state of the world and the things in it. And it's important to notice that, feel how it conditions us. We're also a conditioned appearance. A conditioned appearance appearing in the world of objects, in relationship to those world of objects, in relationship to the world of time and space, and then selves appear. I'd like to share with you a quote I heard from T.S. Eliot. It is only in the world of objects that we have time and space and selves. Who we feel ourselves to be, right, arises that way. It's only in the world of objects that we have time and space and selves. Remove the world of objects, we remove time, we remove space, and we remove selves. So, and those things, time, space, selves, and world of objects, all depend on each other. Okay, so that kind of opens out that realm of possibilities, which can almost feel like a muddle. And it's likely that an endless array of things that we can do with all these teachings will be really beneficial sometimes. Yeah, we will find beneficial ways of relating, but we will also at times have unskillful ways of relating. So what should I do? How should I hold things? Should I see change? Should I seek further change? I think it's really helpful. We've mentioned it before, but just a reminder, recall how the Buddha was really disciplined around their intention to teach. And also before that, in their intention to practice. And because that clarity really bears fruit. That, well, I'm not doing this. This is why I'm here, right? We ask relevant questions aligned to freedom, right? So we're kind of stripping down that wide, perhaps like endless wardrobe that we've opened up with all that stuff in it. And we just say, well, what actually aligns with freedom? So in our practice, it's really helpful to recall our intentions. Why are we practicing? Yeah. And so the path is not just to notice that things change, but actually to take courage from that things change and to enact skillful changes. We always, I certainly do, probably most people do, start the week with, what are our intentions? What is it we want to develop? What do we want to tune into? I think we should start every meditation with that, every day with that. It's like, what am I here for? Those reflections that came back, calming, non-reactive, spacious, release, beautiful, right? And we can see these are not just for a meditation life, but actually for our world. We want a calmer world, a less reactive world, a more spacious, a more free world. Yeah. And this is applicable, right? This is actually applicable. Why? Because everything that appears is conditioned. And those intentions that we hold suggest ways of being, ways of sensing, ways of relating that lead to further freedom. Yeah. So, as I said, there's been quite a lot of ideas, and it could leave us with, I don't know which one to do. Do any of them. They're all good. Do any of them. And if you have other practices that you enjoy, they're also really good, really good. And we can dive into that. The main thing that we want to know in our experience of conditioned things is they will change. The second thing we want to know is we can play a part in that. One of the Sangha Live participants sent me a lovely card, something that I think that I had said in the session they'd found really useful is there's always something we can do. And if we doubt that, what's kind of helpful, because we have a little bit of this inclination towards, I probably can make it worse. I don't know if I can make it better. Why would we think that? Well, it's just a tendency that we have. Doesn't matter why, but we do. Could we make this moment worse? If we can make it worse, we can also make it better. Yeah. We could also celebrate the small win of actually not having made it already worse, right? So we don't have to be perfect, but we do, of course, have that freedom to play a part. I was asked, actually, could I give an example? Patricia, you put this in the chat. Could I give an example of how, this way of seeing that there are no things really, there's just conditions, right? There's no way things really are that has actually informed or transformed an aspect of your life. So last night I had an incredibly light night, quite a lot of insomnia coming from the fever, not being able to rest, all of that kind of thing. And we can see, okay, I'm participating, contributing, playing a part. This is happening, and it can feel like it's happening to me and I'm just some passive observer of that thing. But when we notice, okay, this is a perception, it's quite a radical view. And it's always applicable. Oh, this is a perception. I've got a perception of heat. I've got a perception of restlessness. I've got whatever else, right? And we can play a part. So what can I do? I can release the contraction. So for me, as a practitioner, where I tend to go to first is there something in the body that I can soften? I can relax. I could breathe deeper. Is there something in the awareness, the whole body awareness, that I could open into there? And I used to practice this as a child as well. If you kind of went and slept over at a friend's house and you weren't asleep and they were asleep, I would just copy their breathing. Just like, okay, breathe in a way that you're asleep. And very soon, I believed, and usually it came true, is I will also be asleep, because the breathing matters. The breathing matters. The bodily fabrication matters. The second thing that we can do is quite more intellectual. On that intellectual level, we can really name an insight. It's kind of like an invocation, like a spell. Change. It's just changing. This is inconstant. A reminder. And remember, to be mindful is to remember, to remind. This is changing. And this starts to open things out, lighten things out. And so we can use that, in the bedroom when we can't sleep. We can use that in a conversation when we're getting agitated. It's like, I can soften this, open this. And we can use this in our engaged practice as well. We can use this in stillness and movement, but we can also use it in service, in protest, in the elevation of ideas, standing up for things that we believe in. No, we play, we create, we participate. Because we don't find the ultimate reality of things. We find that they are not fixed in any one way. And that goes for our inner qualities of heart and mind, and it actually also goes for the state of the planet that we're living in. Yeah. So when somebody comes and speaks about something like, let's change the world, let's benefit the world, let's make the world a more beautiful place, you think, well, how could we change the world? What the teaching of change kind of reveals to us when we look in that way is the world is already changing. If we were set one of two goals, right, and one person was set the world of change, the goal of changing the world, and another one was set the goal of do not change the world, only one of those has an impossible task. And we cannot but have an impact in the way that you see it, and from that way you see it to the way we act in it. Yeah. That Dhammapada part that talks about the phenomena being preceded by the mind, ruled by the heart, made of the heart. If you speak or act with a calm, bright heart, then happiness follows you like a shadow that never leaves. So what we can do in every moment that we exist is express more care, more of our deepest intentions. And really don't underestimate your potential to do this. Why? Because how you conceive of yourself shapes what you feel you can do, right? It's always happening. We shape our sense of whatever we sense. Self, time, knowing, it's all a perception. Yeah. Which way of perceiving that reveals, invites freedom. Reveals and invites freedom. I was thinking it could be helpful just to think a little bit about that sense of time with change. These moments, this unfindable moment, no reality to the past and the future, just this flowing through of now, 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 now. It's so slender, such a slither of experience, and here we are in it. All that past is gone, all that future not yet here, just this now. It's present moment. That's a sense of time. There could also be a sense of 13 billion years of time from the inception of this universe, this galaxy, this planet, this sun, and some stretching out future generations. And within all of this kind of movement, this flow of change, it's a different sense of time. In fact, it's a contradictory sense of time. This time we have in our life, in our practice, how long do we have to practice? It's this lovely teaching, Stephen Levine, who worked a lot with death and dying and has now done his death and dying. A year to live. Practice as if we just had a year to live. A beautiful sense that gives to the time we have left. It's short, it's finite. What's precious? What's important? How does that shape our sense of self? What would we do if we knew we didn't have long left? Thanissaro Bhikkhu, whose translation we use, was talking about this. And he actually said, well, if you consider it within this kind of concept of rebirth, and I don't know what's going to happen to us when we die, but we're just holding different ideas and seeing how they impact what we might do in terms of a changing world. Maybe we have eons to go. A year to live or eons to go. And they open up different things. But what it comes down to, I think, is ethics. Who do I want to be reborn as moment to moment in this remaining year? Who do I want to be reborn as, contribute to in this society or in this continuity of awakening? And it comes back down to this. What is it you wish to do with your one wild and precious life, as Mary Oliver invited us? And maybe ethics is not a starting point of this path, but the culmination, the destination. To be a being of kindness and care. So I'd like to invite you into a meditation. It's a little meditation I invented some years ago called Don't Scratch the Itch. It's very simple. All you need to do is sit still, lie still, stand still. And still is like still of a lake. There's a lot of movement in that lake, although it's still, it's not frozen. And what we're going to notice is maybe an itch, an irritation, something we want to get rid of will arise, a tickle, or we want to swallow, or wriggle. Seeing what happens if we don't scratch the itch. Notice what happens then. So if we're fortunate enough to have something in our bodily experience or in the sound sphere that feels like it doesn't want to be there, or it feels like we don't want it to be there, more importantly, and take this noble stance. I won't scratch the itch, I won't push it away, I won't wriggle. I will soften the attention, ease the contraction, and see it change. So sometimes, unfortunately, a little itch appears, and before we know it, we scratched it. It's been attacked. It's fine to get things mixed up. It's fine to fall away from our intentions. But as we come back into alignment with our intentionality, hold that view. This has arisen to be met with kindness, to be allowed to express. Notice how it is to hold that stance, how that shapes our sense of who we are when we don't do what we instinctively feel to do, to reject or grasp onto. If the practice needs more settling, more steadying at this time, inviting you to come to the whole of the body, or if you're with the sounds, the whole of the field of sounds, the most distant sounds, the most quiet sounds. And within that whole body, noticing nothing is static. Sometimes an idea of stasis appears and it feels, oh yeah. But checking in, even that idea is a conditioned appearance. Notice how it feels, how we feel when we lessen that reactivity, how that shapes us. You could say it deeply benefits us, and through us benefits all beings. So we can notice that everything that appears is changing, moving through. We don't need to see or imagine. Our task is to see change correctly. And really, there's no correctly in relationship to conditioned things. And yeah, they're changing, but this is an invite to see them in ways that are freeing. Freeing not just for us, but also, so to speak, for the appearances, the breath. Maybe we see that as an energy rippling through this body field, able to reach deeper parts, open, soothe, soften. Or we listen to the sounds beneath the labels, beneath the definitions. adjusting our sense of time to be attuned with that sensibility of a present moment, this present moment, like a slither of now, somehow endlessly now, always now, all of the past gone, all of the future not here. How should we meet? What appears and disappears is so transient. Any one way it is, it's barely here at all. And we are barely here to know it at all. Letting that sensibility come in as we breathe, as we listen. We sense like a carved figure on the front of a boat, with always in this now, 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 ungraspable, almost inconceivable nowness of change. Noticing how there can be really quite some energy to be now, endlessly now, the vitality of it. And mixing that with the sensitivity and the spaciousness so that we attend well, non-reactively, inspired by our deepest intentions. Now, now, now. At times we default to being a truth seeker. You can feel that, this is how it really is. But the how in these teachings, these practices, is aligned to freedom. Question is not, is this how it is, but does this open, liberate, release? And in what way? How? This conditioned experience, this conditioned self, these conditioned appearances, what we can do with this wild and precious life. And it may be familiar or not, but if you're willing, we could adopt a different view. A view that this moment, this being we are, is a collection, a collaboration, a creation of long lines of men and women and other beings who've come together through eons, generations beyond generations, all the way back to cells dividing. And it's all here. All of these eons are here in us, in this conscious sensitivity, and this being that we know ourselves as, that delusion of separation, is really a part of a whole, a wide, conscious, universal whole, with eons to go. Somehow, some way. What then shall we do with what we have to meet? How shall we turn the tide, contribute to beauty, act wisely, meaningfully, effectively, practice what we wish to see in the world, shape the world through our perceptions and our confidence in our capacity to act. Let's meet these breaths, these sounds, these sensations with an attitude aligned to our deepest values, our deepest intentions. May it be so. knowing this moment in vast, vast time, contributing to a world of kindness and care, wisdom and deep sensitivity. Noticing how it is to see yourself, sense yourself on this path, this ancient path made by walking. When it's easy, others moving down this path in the past, maybe we move down this path in the past, making it easier and easier to practice our intentions, practice our sensitivities. And at other times we are forging path when it's difficult, when it's unknown. And this will also be for the benefit of ourselves and for countless others. Let's meet this breath, meet these sounds, meet this experience of existence, holding it lightly. Also holding it with a real dedication of what brings meaningfulness. Coming into the last minute of practice. Let's take what we could call a victory lap. Feeling into the body, into the awareness, what we've cultivated, what we've contributed towards, how that feels. Letting it be rich, that whole wide sense of sensitive consciousness. And also letting it in, letting it touch us, breathing it in. With appreciation for yourself, for showing up, for practicing, and for those here supporting us all to show up, this whole community. We'll transition into a more community aware space. And yeah, if there are any questions, comments, reflections, things on what I've been speaking about, which hopefully wasn't just a fever dream for you and made some sense, felt helpful. Perhaps the main point being, we make this path by walking. That's the Antonio Machado. Yeah, there is no path. You make the path by walking. And that walking includes our conceptions, our perceptions, how we hold things, how we hold ourselves, how we hold time. All of these things come together, and hopefully we're not trying to get it right, but we're actually doing it with that question. It's like, what would be the most freeing way of perceiving, of understanding, of acting? Yeah. And we're not just doing that so, I'm not bombarded with, regret and shame and all the rest, right? But actually because it's freeing. It's freeing. Living an awakened, ethical life is freeing. And that's why it's one of the three most important parts of this path. The expression of care. Yeah. The other ones being the deepening into gathered well-being, and the penetrating insight into the nature of how things come to be, dependent origination. As this is the last session of the week, maybe I'll just mention a little bit about dana, not with a sense of expectation, but also, again, a sense of opportunity that this opens to kind of live a more, beautiful, open, kind, participating existence. That you come here, that you practice here, is beautiful, and it's enough in and of itself. But if we're able to contribute financially, it will allow this platform to keep going, right? It will allow these things to keep turning. The way that the Buddha spoke about, starting off these teachings was turning that wheel. And each time we come and we practice and we contribute and we participate, we keep turning that wheel. Each time we take our experience and we dive more deeply into it, seeing the ethics, seeing the possibilities, seeing that awakening possibilities there, we're turning that wheel of the Dharma. And another way that we can turn it, when we're able to, is to contribute towards organizations and communities like this that are here to support everyone. There's certainly a beauty here that no one need be turned away for lack of funds. And we wouldn't want the Dharma to be exclusive. Yeah. Always like, well, you need special things so that you can practice this. Someone once said, meditation is the ultimate travel hobby. You don't need a lot of equipment. As long as you've got somewhere to be and you've got a breath, you've got a sounds or whatever, then we can practice in this way. But there are ways of setting these things up that do actually take a lot more work. And Sangha Live is certainly one of those. Really efficient, skillful organization that's, put on a really beautiful space so that we can come into it and keeping it going, keeping on working with it. Any donations that are given to Sangha Live this week will go to me until I think it's like midnight on Friday in the UK or something like this. Donations after that time will be distributed to whoever's teaching at that time. So if you're listening back on the recordings, then that dana will go to someone else. But hey, that's good. It's not meant to be a one-way like a two-way street. I gave to you, you give to me. It's not a payback, it's a pay forwards. So great. So don't see any kind of questions. I see some people asking about the Dhammapada, and maybe that's been, yeah, there's a link there to Thanissaro Bhikkhu's Dhammapada translation. And I'd recommend, checking out more of their translations if you enjoy that one. But the Dhammapada is a really lovely place to go in and kind of resource ourselves with these teachings. There's a lot there that we can gather. And as I kind of mentioned, they're almost like a haiku. It's they're relatively short. We can just take that and we can tune in that way. Okay, someone's asking for the link. I can pop that into the chat. I expect someone else will manage to get to it even before I do. Can I copy that? No. So here's the Dana link. That's still the right one. Sangha.live/donate. You'll also find it, kind of spread around on the community here and there. I don't understand the question you're mentioning there, Frederica. The copies in the library are mixed up. It's good to have a look at it. Okay. I don't know what that, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. So yes, let's just check. Are there any kind of questions around this? Any reflections? That ideas around don't scratch the itch. I think it's gonna be really interesting to just take a clear intention. You can invent your own meditations if you wish to. At least that's what I think you can. The question is it freeing? Is it freeing to do it that way? Many times our minds wander and our experience, gets dispersed all over the place, and just giving ourselves this key little practice, nugget is that I'm not going to scratch any itches. Other times I've practiced, I'm not going to stand down. I'm going to stand with this tree and see if I can outstand it, right? Be outstanding with a tree. And you can do those little things. It's a silly thing to do, but it's kind of it's a way that we can play around. Okay, yeah. So I understand it now. So Monday's recording is actually Wednesday's recording on the Sangha Live library site. Okay, I'll keep an eye on that. They haven't yet. I haven't given them my titles, and so it hasn't probably had its final polish. But I don't know why that's happened. But probably we can put that down to the nature of change to play its little tricks on us. But we'll look into that. Okay, yeah. So the path made by walking, that was David White's translation of Antonio Machado. Let's see if I have a bit more of that to pop in the chat for you. Let's see if that works. It's a very beautiful poem, many translations out there. I quite like David White in general, so I happened to find that recording, that translation beneficial. I'm not sure if it's like a, there's various things. It's not really a translation. It's maybe more an interpretation. I'm not sure if it's a translation from the Spanish or not. Others may know. Or is it Portuguese? Yeah, thank you. So how to explore these teachings with less intellect and more heart? Well, I would say put more heart into it. Like things, I don't think it's a contradiction. I think we can be intellectual and loving at the same time. Yeah, and we can be a philosopher, a lover of wisdom. It's up to each of us to understand, the dependent origination of our experience. You can make these things intellectual. You can make them more loving. You can make them more soft. You can see this as a composition, like a musical composition. You can see it as an artistic endeavor. Yeah, or you could see it as a, more rational, scientific exploration experience of, this and that. Let's move that ingredient and make it like this, and it's like, what's the difference between a scientific experiment and a chef in a kitchen? Like, why does that feel different to us? So if you want them to be having more heart, make them have more heart for you. Tune in to what is happening in the heart when I practice in this way. Yeah, all of these potentials are there for us. But yeah, just watch out. Maybe I would say in general in our lives, watch out for false dichotomies, watch out for conflations, watch out for exaggerations. It's a really helpful part of being a human being is to be humble, be honest. And, when we can bring all those together, then I think we're contributing to a better world. Our honesty, our humility, our creativity are certainly things that this world needs, along with our kindness and our patience and many more beautiful awakening experiences we can dive into. So thank you all for being here and for us being together for this week of practice. It's been very resourceful and nourishing for me, and yeah, I'll look into those little details that you've reminded me of. All right, so take care for now, and look forward to seeing you again before too long.